What would you think if you saw a foreign woman buying 200 sanitary pads at a convenience store every morning? What if that person was a young woman from Sweden? The protagonist of today's story is just such a woman. She came to the United States for work, and every day she would go to the convenience store near her home to buy hundreds of sanitary pads, causing the people in her neighborhood to grow suspicious and call the police. But when the police arrived, they witnessed an unbelievable scene. Why was this young woman silently carrying away such a large quantity of sanitary pads amidst the whispers and gossip? Let's follow her true and astonishing story. Hi, my name is Linda. I was born in a small town outside of Sweden. There, in winter, the whole world was immersed in a pristine white. My childhood memories are mostly filled with warmth. My father was a carpenter, and my mother had a small flower shop. Our house wasn't big, but it was always full of wooden furniture, handcrafted by my father, and subtly fragrant with wildflowers my mother arranged every morning. But that happiness was short-lived. In the winter when I was 7, on a heavily snowy night, my parents died in a car accident. From that day on, my world was only cold and silent. My grandmother took me in. She was a kind person, but not very well off financially, so we had to live very frugally. Linda, here's your new school bag, my grandmother said, handing me an old bag bought from a thrift store. I didn't hate it at all. That bag with the purple embroidery became my little friend. Whenever my friends at school showed off their new school bags, I would just quietly sit alone. I was envious, but I didn't want to be a burden to my grandmother. Winter was an especially difficult time. To save on electricity bills, my grandmother rarely turned on the heater. Every night, I had to wear thick socks and sleep under 2 layers of blankets to stay warm. Sometimes, she would lie next to me, gently rubbing my back with her warm hands. At those moments, all the cold seemed to vanish. Linda, you're a strong little girl, just like your parents. In middle school, I was still a quiet girl, with few friends, but I loved reading and drawing. My sketchbook was full of landscapes and portraits. My art teacher once said, "Linda, you have a remarkable ability to capture human emotions." That compliment encouraged me greatly. And then, in the winter of my 7th grade year, the most embarrassing moment of my life arrived. It was snowing heavily that day. After school, on my way to the bus stop, I felt something strange in my lower abdomen. I wanted to go to the restroom, but the last bus was about to leave. When I reached the stop, I sat down on a bench, and at that very moment, I realized my uniform skirt was stained with a bright red streak. I never imagined my first period would come this way, although my grandmother had told me about it. Facing it myself, I was completely flustered. Looking around, there were a few classmates. One girl looked at my skirt and whispered to her friend. Immediately after, I heard giggles and whispers. Look at her pants." The mocking felt like needles piercing my ears. My face burned and tears streamed down. I used my school bag to cover the stain, but it was too late. In the middle of the snow-covered bus stop, I could only curl up and cry. I wanted to call my grandmother, but my phone ran out of battery right then. I felt utterly humiliated and helpless. "Are you okay?" A warm voice spoke up. I looked up. An Asian woman stood before me. She didn't speak English perfectly. I couldn't speak, only cried. She didn't ask further, just silently took off her coat and draped it over my shoulders. It was so warm. Then she took a small bag from her pocket, handed me a sanitary pad and some wet wipes. "The restroom is over there." She pointed towards a nearby coffee shop. At that moment, I didn't know how to thank her, only nodded and took them. After I had sorted myself out in the restroom, I returned to the bus stop. She was still standing there waiting. "Feeling better, dear?" she asked. "Yes, thank you so much," I finally managed to say. "First time?" I nodded shyly. "Don't worry, it's natural. My first time was scary too. Here, this is for you." She handed me a pair of long pants that looked like they had just been bought from a nearby store. She said she was from Vietnam, studying language in Sweden, and her name was Mai. She waited with me until the bus arrived. It was still snowing, still cold, but her presence made me feel incredibly warm. Next time, remember to keep one in your bag. And if this happens again, don't be ashamed. All women go through it. Her simple advice gave me immense strength. When I got on the bus, I tried to return her coat, but she waved her hand. Keep it. Bring it back to me when you get home. She wrote her address on a small piece of paper. The next day, my grandmother and I went to that address. Mai greeted us with a radiant smile. My grandmother gave her a shawl she had knitted herself, and I gave her a small painting I had drawn the night before, an image of the bus stop in the snow with two people standing together. Not long after, Mai returned to Vietnam, but that brief encounter left a deep, warm impression on my heart. From that day on, I always wondered if one day I could use such warmth to alleviate someone's shame, and the name Vietnam unintentionally entered my mind. In high school, I started to self-study Vietnamese and poured all my passion into painting. After graduating, I decided to study graphic design. My grandmother always supported me. Your paintings always have warmth. Share that with the world. Throughout my university years, I worked part-time and diligently saved money, of course, to go to Vietnam. While researching design trends in Vietnam, my interest in the country grew stronger. I learned about a work-study program and decided to go to Vietnam after graduation. My grandmother was worried but respected my decision. Finally, the day I landed at Noi Bai Airport, Hanoi, arrived. The humid heat, the bustling motorbikes, the strange smells of street food, everything was unfamiliar, yet there was a strangely familiar feeling. I secured an internship at a small design studio in Long Bien district. There, I gradually became acquainted with Vietnamese design styles and slowly adapted. Honestly, at first, I was very lonely. The language barrier and cultural differences sometimes felt like an insurmountable wall. I texted my grandmother every day. Grandma, today I got lost on the Cat Lane, Ha Dong Metro, but a kind lady showed me the way. Grandma, today I ate pho for the first time. Spice, but delicious. After 6 months, my life gradually stabilized. My Vietnamese improved and I began to be recognized at work. But deep down, I still felt empty. I wanted to do something more meaningful. Then, one day, as I was browsing the news on my phone, an article caught my attention. Highland students drop out because they can't afford sanitary pads. The article talked about teenage girls who, due to poverty, couldn't afford these essential items. One student in the interview said she once had to use shoe inserts as a substitute. As soon as I saw that girl's face, my past flooded back. The image of me huddled at the bus stop in the snow, the shame, the helplessness, and the warmth from Mai. At that very moment, I made a decision. I would give back the warmth I once received to these girls. The next morning, I woke up early and went to the convenience store near my home. The first time, I bought 30 packs of sanitary pads. The cashier was a little surprised, but quickly put them in a bag. That evening, I searched for addresses of shelters and community centers in the area. After work, I took the bag of sanitary pads there. "Hello, I'd like to donate some items to the children here," I said in my broken Vietnamese. The center staff were surprised but happily accepted. That was the beginning. My life was no longer empty. Every morning, my steps to the convenience store felt light. After the first donation, I felt the need for more because the center staff said these items were always in short supply. So the next day, I returned to the store. This time, I bought 100 packs. The staff were even more surprised, but I just smiled. For a week, I went every day to buy sanitary pads and started donating to more places. Not just shelters, but also children's villages and community welfare centers. I didn't meet the children directly. I just dropped off the items and left. But that alone was enough to warm my heart. 2 weeks later, I increased the quantity to 200 packs each time. My savings dwindled quickly, but my heart felt fuller. However, the attitude of the store staff began to change. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. I started to hear whispers. That foreign girl is here again, a staff member said. She'll probably clear out all the pads today, another replied. Because I had studied Vietnamese for a long time, I understood most of what they said, but I pretended not to know. The important thing was the reason I was doing this. Their words didn't matter. A month passed, and rumors began to spread throughout the neighborhood. I saw the owner of the bakery across the street pointing at me, and the fruit seller also looked at me with scrutinizing eyes. I didn't know it then, but strange rumors about me had spread throughout the neighborhood. One day, as I was checking out, a staff member told her colleague, "I heard she buys hundreds of packs of sanitary pads every day." The middle-aged male employee next to her replied, "Maybe she's buying them to resell illegally?" Then another person interjected, "No way, she's probably just an easy girl. You can tell by her face." Easy girl, a phrase I had never heard. When I later learned its meaning, my heart ached. But I didn't show anything, quietly putting the items into my bag. They probably didn't think I understood Vietnamese. That night was the first time I doubted what I was doing. But then I quickly regained my resolve. The important thing was those girls to give back the warmth I had once received. From the next day on, the staff began to tease me more openly. "Oh, buying so little today, ma'am? Buying this much? You could open a wholesale business, couldn't you?" I still smiled, but my heart began to bleed. A month and a half passed. One day, the store owner approached me. "Miss, may I speak with you for a moment?" His face was very stern. I nodded, following him into his office. "Why do you buy so many sanitary pads every day?" His voice was full of suspicion. I decided to tell the truth. "I donate them to children in need." My Vietnamese wasn't fluent, but I tried to explain as clearly as possible. But the owner's expression didn't change. "Do you have any proof?" His question sounded like he was interrogating a criminal. I was about to take out my phone to show him pictures of the centers I had visited, but he waved his hand. "I'm sorry, but your bulk purchases are affecting our store and inconveniencing other customers." My heart felt shattered. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was being suspected like this. After that day, I had to go to many different stores, buying a little at each. But the rumors had spread everywhere. Everywhere I went, I heard whispers. "There's that strange foreign girl. She must be doing something illegal. Someone should report her to the police." And finally, someone actually reported it to the police. It was the convenience store owner. One Friday evening, when I had just returned home from work, 2 police officers were waiting in front of my rental room. One was young, looking serious. "Are you Linda?" he asked. "Yes, that's me," I replied with a worried voice. "I am Officer Miller from the precinct. We'd like to speak with you for a moment." Officer Miller asked to see where I kept my items. I nodded and led him into my room. The door opened, revealing a room that had been transformed into a small warehouse. One wall was stacked with boxes of sanitary pads. On the other side was a calendar filled with a detailed schedule and donation locations. Officer Miller's expression changed slightly. "Are you planning to donate all of these?" His voice was less suspicious. "Yes, please have a look." I led him to my desk. On the desk were handwritten notes I had prepared to stick on each box. "You are not alone. Don't be ashamed. Let's try together." Then I took out a notebook. It contained detailed records of each donation, the addresses of the centers, and even the signatures of the recipients. Officer Miller took the notebook, flipping through a few pages. His expression gradually changed. His initially stern gaze softened. After a moment of silence, he sighed. "I'm sorry, Miss Linda." I could feel the weight in his words. "It's okay. Everyone thinks that." Number 1. I truly don't know what to say. He bowed his head. At that moment, I saw the sincerity in his eyes, shame, regret, and even admiration. Honestly, at first, I didn't think I would be so misunderstood. I just wanted to help a little. Officer Miller stood up, returning my notebook. "You're doing an amazing job as a foreigner to face such misunderstandings. I just want to return the help I once received, I said, suddenly remembering the image of Mai at the bus stop all those years ago. Officer Miller handed me his business card. If you have any problems in the future, please contact me. And I'm truly sorry for causing this misunderstanding. Later, I learned that Officer Miller went to see the convenience store owner that evening and told him the whole truth. The next morning, I still went to the convenience store as usual. As soon as I walked in, I felt the atmosphere had changed. The staff's eyes were completely different from yesterday. The owner was standing behind the counter, looking at me. I took 200 packs of sanitary pads and went to the checkout. The owner silently stepped out. Miss Linda, his voice was deep and shaky. I looked up at him. In his eyes was a completely different emotion. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry, he said. I didn't know anything. I just listened to others and looked at you negatively. I didn't know how to react, only replied briefly. It's okay. He took out a box full of sanitary pads from under the counter. I prepared these with my own money. I want to contribute a little too. At that moment, I was truly touched. A person who had looked at me with suspicion yesterday had changed so much today. A week later, when I returned to the store, I saw an astonishing sight. At the entrance, a small donation box had been placed there, along with a message. Give warmth to those who are shy, just like Linda did. There were already a few packs of sanitary pads in the box. The owner explained. I told your story to our customers. Many were very moved. I hope our store can become a small hub for this donation effort. Hearing that, tears streamed down my face. My small actions could affect others so much. I secretly thanked Mai in my heart. The small kindness she gave at the bus stop all those years ago was now creating ripple effects. The change didn't stop there. A few days later, the fruit vendor called me over. Linda, honey, come here. Grandma has something for you. That warmth permeated my heart. The atmosphere in the neighborhood had completely changed. Those who once looked at me with scrutiny now greeted me very warmly. The donation box in front of the store always had people putting items in it every day. My rental room had become a real warehouse, but now I no longer had to bear the burden alone. The store owner lent his pickup truck to transport items, and young people in the neighborhood also started coming to help. One afternoon, as we were organizing items, Officer Miller stopped by, holding 2 cups of coffee. We sat on the stone bench in front of the rental complex. For the first time, I told someone my story. About the bus stop in Sweden, about Mai's warmth. Officer Miller listened quietly. So that's why you came to America. Yes, perhaps that memory has always been deep in my heart. After that conversation, Officer Miller contacted me more often. Initially, it might have been out of a sense of guilt, but gradually his messages showed genuine interest in my activities. Community involvement grew stronger. A parent introduced my work during a school parent meeting, and as a result, the Parent-Teacher Association began fundraising. As suggested by the convenience store owner, every Saturday afternoon, a volunteer activity was held in the empty yard next to the store. Initially, there were only 5 people, but the number steadily increased. My relationship with Officer Miller also deepened naturally. Every day off, he would come and participate in the activities with me. We talked a lot. One day, after a late-night activity, Officer Miller asked if I was tired. I replied that these moments of doing this work were when I was happiest. He looked at me for a moment and then said, Miss Linda, you are a very special person. Those words made my heart skip a beat. A year later, we held a small, simple wedding in a nearby park. Children from the shelter carried paper flowers they made themselves, walking ahead. The convenience store owner acted as the MC. The entire neighborhood came to celebrate with us. All the people who had once looked at me with suspicious eyes were now shedding happy tears and wishing us well. After we got married, we moved into a small house. The Linda's Friends Fund was registered as an official non-profit organization. 2 years later, our small family welcomed a little angel, a baby girl we named Serenity, a name that means peace in English and is easy for Swedes to pronounce. She became the center of our universe. One day, while looking through old photos, Officer Miller joked, "It's strange to think back. What if I hadn't come to investigate you that day?" I laughed and replied, "Then, that was the most successful investigation of your career, wasn't it?" Indeed, if it weren't for those misunderstandings and cold glances, perhaps we wouldn't be here today. The small kindness of a woman at a bus stop changed my life, and that change is now impacting the lives of countless others. I hope our story will spread so that everyone knows how much a little kindness can make a huge difference, that sincerity will ultimately triumph over all prejudices. And most importantly, to know that we can all be a warm coat for someone in the cold winter.